Guys, welcome back to the Chris Opdyke Show, episode number 5. Today I have entrepreneur, business owner Noah Carter from Clean Eats Meal Prep. Noah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here today. First podcast doing this.
All right, welcome. Don't be nervous.
Yeah, appreciate you reaching out to me and definitely looking forward to this.
No, we appreciate you guys coming in. I appreciate it. All my guests so far, Scott Goodale, BJ Young, Corey Weissman, and the Shoe Fairy, Alexis Stim coming in. So kind of tell us, before we get started into the Clean Eats, just tell us a little bit about your background, your college background, your banking background, before we get into the Clean Eats piece.
Yeah. So essentially, before I took the plunge or the leap into business ownership, as most people call it, I went to school. I essentially my college life started, I want to say, my mid-20s. My full-fledged college life. Fresh out of high school, I went to school for some graphic design. I had a creative mindset, always interested in advertising and things of that nature. Followed that through with an associate's degree, got out, went right into the working force. At that point, I didn't feel the need to go back to finish for the bachelor's because, you're eager to work. You're eager to start making money and getting your return. That was a very small company. Unfortunately, the company took some hits and it went under. It put me in a position where I needed to make some life adjustments. At that point, I moved actually back in with my grandparents after being on my own for a little bit. And my grandmother had a pretty strict rule: if you're going to live in this house, you're going to go back to school and you're going to figure this out.
Right, Grandma.
The graphic design industry for me at that point was a little bit of a struggle when I got out of school. Fresh out of school. Had limited resources, limited network, limited experience, and with that, it created an interview process that was tough. You would sit down with people, and they would give you a list of 10 things they wanted you to do, 10 or 11 things, and they wanted to pay you this much because you were eager, young, and ambitious. And with that being said, I made the decision to move back in with my grandparents. It gave me the opportunity to re-enroll in school. Started bartending nights and weekends full time, going into school at 7 o'clock in the morning, coming out at 3, 4, catching the night shift, working till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Doing the same thing.
Cramming in homework and studying when you could.
So you're doing all that other stuff. You're doing your schoolwork. How'd that Clean Eats meal prep thing come about?
Yeah. So my transition from graduating school, I went into outside sales. I started working in retail banking for companies such as Chase and Capital One. Had a pretty long career there, 6, 7 years going into business banking. I was then approached by another company, by Paychex, named Paychex, which is a payroll provider. I focused on retirement funds, 401k, which was awesome for me because through banking, I gained a lot of knowledge in regards to retirement. I believed in it. So it was a great product for me to step in and sell. The interesting thing was, I noticed over the 7 and now 8 years that I was working in the sales field and business, finance, and now retirement, I didn't see myself giving 110% every day. I was
working for the man.
Yeah, man. I mean, suit and tie, clean shaving every day, being at the office at 7, running to 6, 7 o'clock at night if needed to try to hit your quotas and things of that nature. But essentially, I always found myself sitting down with my managers and saying, Noah, you could do better. I know you could do better. One day I come in and I'm 100%, 110%. Next day I come in, I'm 70. And I couldn't figure out what was the trigger that wasn't happening. When I went into my last previous job before moving into Clean Eats, I said to myself, this is going to be it. I'm super excited. It was a step foot in the right direction. It was a very reputable company. Went in there with, my head in the sky saying this was going to be it. And a year and a half into the process, I noticed myself falling back into the same realm of that 80% mark, 90%. And Clean Eats came along as an opportunity. Through my corporate experience, I still bartended. So I worked in New Jersey nightlife. Went through that process for about 7 or 8 years, worked with some of the biggest names, biggest entertainment company in New Jersey, met a lot of people. And through that network, my business partner now at Clean Eats had approached me in regards to helping him find someone to do some website work for a business plan that he had. After he asked for that, I sat down with him and I said, listen, let me see your guys' business plan. He presented it to me. And I offered, I said, listen, if there's a seat at the table, I'd love to get involved. We saw it as an additional stream of income. Meal prep at that time, after he told me about it, I started looking it up. So it was new to me. And that's what really started the process. He gave me a seat at the table, and we started putting one foot in front of the other.
So is it fair to say though, like you really got in because of networking, right? Because of the bartending gig, got you kind of where you are today. And I think that's important because so many people out there and they're in a place where they really maybe don't want to be yet, but those things do pop up along the way. And because you were bartending, which is okay, you're sitting here as a partner in a pretty successful meal prep company, being very new in the industry in a really good spot, right?
Yes. Yeah. The network that I developed over the bartending really helped kind of jumpstart and put us in a great place to get the name out there, to get the service and the brand out there. And it's amazing because you can only connect the dots looking back. Yeah. Great Steve Jobs said that. And I use that line often because you don't realize the work that you've been doing over the previous 5, 6, 8, or even 2 years. You can get to a point in your life where all that becomes useful, and it's not a waste. So having the ability to reach out to people that I worked with on a weekly basis and said, hey, can you throw this up on Instagram? Can you post this? Can you try the food? Give us a referral. It's very powerful because you didn't realize that you were building up that network. And when you build up that network and you have the ability, essentially, you just have to change the channel a little bit and show your following, your friends, your family, hey, look at everything else that I'm doing. And the support, will carry over.
And I think too, everybody out there has a network and they just don't know it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'd be surprised. Even now, my personal Instagram page or social media, I'm putting out a lot less. I'm posting less. I try to keep it quality and things of that nature. But I once a week, every 2 weeks, I have random people DM or reach out and
Like me.
Like you, that say, hey man, I love watching what you've been doing for the last 3-4 years. I think it's great. Like don't stop, keep going. And this is a random person I never met in my life, never liked any of my photos, but here that individual is they're being inspired by what average everyday people are doing, and it's very powerful.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about the Clean Eats piece a little bit. So physical company, when you first started, you had a couple partners. Your first kitchen, were you cooking like in grandma's kitchen? Did you guys rent the place out? So talk a little bit, because I think everybody just sees that overnight, oh, these guys are really big. But there's a process to go there, right? It starts small, and then everybody just sees that overnight success. But that overnight success took 5 years, 6 years, or how you guys are like 3-4 years in, right?
Yeah, we're into our 4th year now.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the very beginning, like day one Clean Eats.
Day one Clean Eats, we started and did everything by the book the right way. We rented a small commercial kitchen. The kitchen was probably about the size of this room. Now you'll see a lot of meal prep, companies or individuals doing meal prep. They'll be cooking out of their homes or things of that nature. And I remember my first phone call, we used my residence as the business address because we didn't have a kitchen yet. And when I called up the health department to start the process, even though we had a kitchen that we were going to, they did all their due diligence and they said, well, this is a residential address. You can't have a food and beverage company under this. And I'm like, well, that's just, the mailing address. I'm like, well, you got to relist it with the state. So at that point, I'm like, oh, okay. So we got into our first kitchen, and our first day of deliveries, our customers got their meals between 11 o'clock at night and midnight. It was a disaster. Definitely, an interesting experience, and essentially, when that started, you start adjusting literally the next day. You're like, okay, what went wrong? What could we do better? Where did we fail? Where could we improve? And right there, the process starts. From that kitchen, we moved into a second kitchen in Nutley, New Jersey. It was a probably triple the size of what we started in, and we moved within the first 3 months. And that was a Italian restaurant in New Jersey, in Nutley, New Jersey. The owner, Kenny, he came in, and it was actually great having them there because we had the ability to talk to him, learn a little bit. And he said it right off the bat. He's like, two guys in the food business that don't know food, it's a dangerous thing. And we didn't. We didn't know. My partner had limited knowledge, in the field. I had none in regards to food.
Mm-hmm.
I applied skills such as, business operations, finance, marketing, knacks that I picked up, over my professional career and bartending. We outgrew that kitchen within the 7th month we were there, and then we moved to Wayne, New Jersey, which is our facility now, which was a full-fledged commercial refrigerated 7,000 square foot spot.
Wow.
And that was a very scary moment because we didn't have the business to support. No way. I mean, we took another leap.
Mm-hmm.
When we moved into our second kitchen, the numbers were there. It made sense. Third kitchen didn't make sense. And we just signed a lease now, moving into a larger facility in Secaucus, New Jersey, that's going to come to fruition between March and May as soon as renovations are done.
So that's going to be kitchen number 4.
Kitchen number 4. This one will give us room to grow for the next couple of years. This is a long-term move, more of a permanent move for Clean Eats.
Wow, good for you guys.
Yeah.
When you guys were starting the company with the partners, I'm sure you had some challenges you knew were going to come along. So talk a little bit about those challenges that you knew you were going to have to face, and then maybe how you overcame them, and then some of those challenges that popped up along the way when you kind of got in the kitchen, so to speak.
Okay, so first challenge that I think Clean Eats faced originally with the original company, there was 3 partners we started. Each of us had own designated areas that we were going to focus on and bring our talents and our experience to. Within the first 2.5 months, we had a falling out. So right there, we faced our first challenge. 2.5, 3 months into the company, we just started operating, and we're already having a falling out. It was like a classic, and our first but first meeting when we put the game plan together. I remember I said to the 2 other gentlemen, I said, one of the main reasons why companies fail is the partners have fallen out. And 2.5 months later, we're down that road. We were able to navigate and make the adjustments. That was the first big hiccup, because right there you're thinking, all right, well, everything we just started with is now gone.
Right.
We have to redelegate responsibilities. We have to rehire individuals to fill those gaps, and orders are coming in. You gotta react.
Yeah, people aren't stopping their orders.
People aren't stopping their orders. So you have to be fluid. You have to adjust, and we did. And we moved on from that. The second biggest obstacle we had was our website. Within the first 4 months of the company, our web developer, went from a very small cost in getting the website up on the internet to then some of the basic changes that we needed to make. Started hitting us with some large bills that just were unreasonable and didn't make sense for the company. We couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I sat there, got off the phone with my partner, my current partner, got off the phone with the web developer, and I said, listen, you're going to forward us our domain name 2 days from now, and we're done with you. So what I went on YouTube. I researched how to build websites. I locked myself in my apartment for about 3 days straight. It took me 12 hours to build our first website, which probably would take somebody with basic skills 4, but it took me 12.
Uh-huh.
And we had another website that I designed from scratch on the board.
And I think that's so important too. A lot of guys out there, especially when you're new, the money's not there. So they're like, well, I need this. I need a web guy. I need a delivery guy. So your web guy isn't being fair to the company. So you say, we're going to do it ourselves. And you lock yourself in a room for 3 days and learn how to design a website. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of people out there think like that. They're like, well, I don't have a website now, so I don't know what I'm going to do. It's Google, it's YouTube, and you self-taught web designer. Now, do you have a guy that does the website now, or do you do it?
So this is the interesting thing with that. Is essentially I designed that site and 2 sites after. My skill levels was very basic. I mean, I did the best I could. We ran into server issues and stuff like that, technical issues out of my hands directly.
Mm-hmm.
But it got to the point where the business was growing. You needed a true professional to kind of step in. But the interesting thing is, for the year and a half, 2 years that I was focusing on that, when I sit down with a web developer,
You have a little bit of
I already know what they're saying.
Yeah.
So when they tell me, oh, well, we'll do this and it's going to cost you $2,500, I'm like, well, that plugin's only $79 and I could turn it on right now. So the interesting thing is, even the web developer that maintains our website now, 80% of the small tweaks I just do, and I just let them know I'm doing them. And there's a lot of power and strength in there. And that's just the website. From there, we learned how to, do logistics, build routes, build a small delivery company for our local market that we're doing. And the interesting thing is, now when couriers come in to pitch us on their service, or they want to partner with us, I can sit there and look them dead in the face and say, I already know what you guys do on your end, so I know the problems you face.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people think, oh, the meal prep company, well, he comes to my house and then he goes home. The delivery piece is just as big, if not the cooking piece for you guys, to make sure all the orders get out in some sort of way where it's efficient for your company and the drivers and all that kind of stuff. So talk about the delivery piece a little bit.
The delivery is probably the most difficult obstacle there is. And essentially, the kitchen can produce the highest quality, best, dish possible, plate it perfectly, goes into refrigeration, the fulfillment team checks off the order, puts it in the box, all right, this order is good, taped, boom, ready to go. Then if you use a courier service, the courier is going to come in. One guy's going to come pick up the box. He's going to put the box or multiple boxes into his vehicle, drive that to the facility. Then it's going to go in someone else's hand on a pallet. And then it's going to go down a belt, and 6 other guys are going to touch it. Then it's going to go in a van, and it's going to get drove down to Cherry Hill or Washington, D.C. by another guy. And by the time the customer receives it, it's like 15, 16 hands. The scary thing is when you're talking to FedEx, and FedEx is telling you that your package has to withstand a 4-foot drop, and it has to withstand a 15-mile-per-hour belt into a wall. And these are real conversations. And so you're taking this beautiful, looking food, this beautiful dish in a plastic container or fiber, paper, whatever you're using, and you're entrusting that into the courier service. So the delivery aspect is definitely one of the most difficult aspects of the service in itself. Whether you're relying on couriers for certain areas, or you're self-managing your own fleet of vehicles with your own drivers. Either way, it's definitely a difficult aspect to make 100%.
You guys have a little bit of your own people working for you delivering, and then you use some outside courier services to get the deliveries out.
Yes. So in our local New Jersey market and local New York market, we have our own delivery trucks, our own delivery drivers. Outskirts, Philadelphia to PA, we service ourselves. But when you get, you go into Westchester County up north, or you start going into Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C., you're relying on a courier. It's just, when it comes to the cost analysis and what's effective, using a courier at a flat rate is the way to go. So with our service, we do rely on our self-managed drivers and fleet, and we use couriers in places that we can't directly hit.
A pretty nice spread out there then.
We go as far as Virginia.
Wow. Was there ever a time when you were starting up, or even in the first years, that you just kind of were like, what did I do? What did I get myself into? I'm done. I want to throw my hands up in the air, and I'm just over it.
Maybe once a day.
Once a day. Once a day.
The reality is, those thoughts and those doubts, they're there. I mean, they're there constantly. I mean, like anything else, when you start, your expectations and your high hopes are through the clouds, and that's realistic, and it's great to be excited, and that's going to be a big driver in you continuing down the path, is keeping your head in the cloud. But the reality is life, especially in the business game, throws you curveballs that you didn't even think possibly can happen, and you're gonna wake up. You're not gonna sleep. There's days even now that I'm just like, is this the best thing? Like, am I crazy for keep doing this? We just signed a 10-year lease. you're sitting there and you're looking at that signature page and you're like, okay, yeah, let's go for it.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is, this goes back to my professional career. I didn't put my back against the wall ever in my life until I took the jump. And what
Right.
I mean by that is, the day that I closed on my house is the same week I quit my job, is the same week that I lost my bartending jobs. And I had no choice but to make Clean Eats profitable within 2 months to start supporting myself and my family,
Right.
as well as my business partner.
So there's a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting thing, or the best thing that we do at Clean Eats, is our back's always against the wall. Whether it's putting ourselves in an arena or service. You walk in, you have a meeting, and you're saying yes to somebody that you haven't done it yet, but the willingness to figure it out. And you go back, you sit down in a room, and you map out your plan, and you go into action. So I think those doubts, they're always there.
They're always going to be.
Four years in, I mean, I'm still, there's nights I'm up, walk around the house, my wife thinks I'm crazy, but or I get up and I jump on my computer and I start working.
Yeah.
It's actually a motivating factor for me, because the fear and the doubts is that fire that just, I haven't used an alarm clock in 3.5 years.
Yeah. So, talk about that a little bit, because I think everyone's used to, they want to punch out, right? 9 to 5, and then they punch out. When you're the owner of a business, there isn't that 9 to 5 there. And I know no one day you guys have is probably typical, but give like a basic day for you at Clean Eats.
Well, essentially, I wake up every day prepared for anything that could happen. On a busy day, our operations start at 9 a.m. Let me say, on a regular day, our operations start at 9 a.m. and the closure could be roughly about 9, 10 p.m., depending on the volume. The interesting thing is, with the dynamic of our business, with some of our commercial business that we do and our commercial clients, for example, today, a 5 a.m., breakfast catering job's going out, a 10 o'clock drop to, Madison Square Garden, last night, or Barclays last night. Those are all jobs that are out of the normal realm,
Mm-hmm.
that you still have to, solidify. Sundays, our office is closed. Sunday's the one day our office is closed, but we have drivers on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So a typical day for me is, 5 a.m. start. 5 a.m. my eyes open up. A cup of coffee gets going. I open up my computer. I do a lot of admin, emails. Respond to people that reach out to me directly overnight. Moving into the office around 9 o'clock. At that point, we have our preliminary list coming in, so the kitchen starts working, whether it's continuing prep or they start doing cooking based on the preliminary. We have a cutoff at 12 p.m. Kitchen gets the final list. At that point, they finish out those lists. We have our couriers picking up at 5, 6 o'clock for anything outside, so there's deadlines there. All those meals get moved into the front walk-in with all our refrigeration, and the fulfillment starts going. So for me, it's a 5 a.m. start, and I don't really relax or shut my eyes until I get that text from our warehouse manager saying, hey, we're good, closing up, everything's great.
Everything's out and we're good.
Yeah.
Right. So in there, you mentioned a little bit, you do some like drops, like you did at breakfast this morning, you dropped off at the Barclays last night. Talk about that piece a little bit, because I think most people out there just think meal prep is kind of, it's cooked somewhere and it's delivered to a doorstep. You guys are doing a little bit more than just delivering to a doorstep. So talk a little bit about that piece as well.
Yeah. So we offer, we've had the ability to apply our services to other needs other than just your residential customer. So your residential customer, go on the website, order a select amount of meals delivered to their home, as you said, and they're good for the week. Whether it's lunches, entrees, dinners, full boat breakfast, breakfast to dinner. With the commercial aspect, we offer customized meals for our clients. Commercial drops to offices that want to buy lunch for their employees.
Mm-hmm.
Commercial catering. So with Clean Eats, we've grown it from a meal prep business to a commercial kitchen aspect. Whether it's servicing off-site cafes with healthy alternative food, or doing a breakfast drop at a university or a local business.
So that's pretty cool because we're getting out of just that residential piece too, and it's going commercial.
Yeah.
And the companies out there know that now. So
Yeah.
it's another piece for you, right?
Essentially, it's another aspect of business. It's another stream of revenue, and this is something that in the beginning you don't think about, until you get that phone call. We've had great success with our current director of sales, who came on board with an extensive background in food and beverage, and was able to visualize and put into action. Hey, there's other stuff out there that we can apply what we're doing for our residential customers on a commercial. And we started down that path, and we're definitely seeing some great success in return there.
Wow. What's unique to the meal prep industry? I know we talked about this the other night on the phone, and some of the stuff you said to me, I was kind of mind blown a little bit. And mentioned the restaurant owner when you guys were renting one of those first kitchens, and the owner was in there watching, like, these guys are cooking food, delivering it, and the people that don't do aren't going to come to my restaurant because these guys are cooking here and making it. So talk about that piece a little bit, because I was like, I was mind blown by that, and I don't get like weirded out by stuff too much when I talk to people in here, and I was like, wow,
Awesome.
I never ever thought of that aspect of it.
So podcast 5, first guy to do it.
First guy
Weird
to
you
do it.
out.
Weirded me out a little bit.
Yeah, well, so the second kitchen we were in, as I said, it was a restaurant, and the chef and owner, when the first week we were in there, he came in to check out the operation, see what we're doing, and he walked in and he sees food going into a plastic container, lidding, label, into a bag, and he's picking up the bag, and there's 20 meals in it, 25 meals, and he's like, this is one order, like this is we're like, yeah, this is one person. And he said to us, he's like, well, if you guys are cooking food and they're eating with you 6-7 days a week, they're not going to come to my restaurant.
They're not coming here.
And not that we were taking his customers in any way, shape, or form, but this is a person that's been in the restaurant business for 30 years. So him seeing the shift in how consumers and people are now eating and looking for the delivery, looking for the convenience. So with the industry in a whole, it's very unique, because you're literally showcasing the change of what people are looking for, and the meal prep industry has the ability to meet their needs. That you thought going out to dinner 3 nights a week was something you needed to do. You felt good doing it. You wanted to do it. But then people start realizing, oh, well, the quality of time, the time saved. So it's unique because the food is the product, but you're delivering time. You're delivering time and nutrition to somebody. So it's unique because, as I said, the food is what people are enjoying, but they don't realize how much, or they do realize how much time they're saving by doing it this way.
Yeah. How much has the industry changed since you've been in the 3 or 4 years since day one to where you guys are now? How much has it changed, and kind of where do you see it going?
Great question. I want to say the change in the industry in the last 4 years that we're doing this, I see an influx of more companies. It's definitely have become more competitive, more saturated. The interesting thing with that is you don't see a lot of change in how people are doing things. Meaning every company's kind of just following suit. Whether it's a local company or a national company. Everyone's kind of just doing the same thing, trying to hit the same price points. I haven't seen much change there. I just seen a greater saturation. Oh yeah, more. I mean, even where we're located now, there's six companies or individuals that are working within a 10-mile radius, out of the same area, that 4 years ago weren't there.
Yeah. Talk a little bit, because I was playing around on the Clean Eats website last night. Just talk a little bit about the meals out there, what you guys do, because I think I've played around with it, and I was looking at some other companies out there, but I think your menu, as far as selections go, are probably the most that I've ever seen on a meal prep company, and I've looked around a little bit. So talk about that a little bit, because you have the vegan menu, you have the keto menu out there, and I'm sure has that blown up a little bit since Jersey Shore and Vinny and the Keto Guido? I mean,
Yeah, so great question.
So essentially, what's great about Clean Eats and unique is the meals are chef. They're chef inspired, chef created. So we do have a head chef. She puts her passion, her heart. She's an artist with the food. So when it comes to that, she follows the guidelines to provide the best healthy alternative meal. But essentially, she's creating everything from scratch, and it gives it a very unique touch or look on our menu, and you taste it as well in the food. Next to some of these companies that you might see that's just more of generic meals, some classics, things of that nature that are just kind of there to appeal to masses.
Yeah.
We offer those, of course. I mean, you got it.
chicken and rice.
Chicken and rice, the jasmine rice, or our clean chicken parm, stuffed peppers. I mean, these are all classic dishes that a person's going to recognize and have. But with our chef, on board and at the helm of the kitchen, it gives us the ability to really showcase, a more of a chef or unique experience when it comes to the food. In regards to additional menu options such as vegetarian, vegan, the keto diet. I mean, these are diets that people are following, and essentially you do want to offer the ability and the option, because it's a need. They're still interested in saving the time, and they want quality of food. So whatever Clean Eats can do in regards to meeting that need, we try to stay on the forefront and say we listen to the customers. If somebody calls us up and they're requesting a dish to come back, or we send out our surveys and we hear that they're missing this dish or they really love this, don't take it off the menu. We do our best to make sure that we listen to them.
I think too, you guys offer a kids menu as well. That's one of the first times I've seen a kids menu out there. So talk about that a little bit.
The kids menu, we launched it relatively recently. We're working on expanding it to more options. Me being a father, my child kind of eats the same thing over and over and over again. So we know how difficult it is for parents to find those options. And essentially, when we speak to our customers, our weekly customers, and you hear, I love you guys' meals. I order, 5 or 10 dinners a week, whatever it might be. But, I have a 3-year-old. What can you guys do? And that's where that really started. And when we put the kids menu up, we kept it basic. It has to be something that they're going to like, and we've seen great feedback on it. And we're happy to do it. And essentially, it's just another added benefit to using our service. If you're a parent and you and your spouse are eating Clean Eats, why not get a healthy mac and cheese for for your toddler.
Talk about like the products you guys use, because when we were talking on the phone the other night, you guys use a higher quality product in there. It's not like a fast food in a plastic container. So talk about how you guys actually do your food, because you guys have some actual people that know food behind the scenes before that even happens. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So essentially with Clean Eats, from the start, quality was always number one and always will be. When it comes to our food, it's all about the quality. So we pay very, very close attention, number one, to where we're receiving the food from. The facilities we're getting it from, the purveyors we're getting it from. We're always constantly comparing. Even though we might be happy with our current chicken vendor that we use. Essentially we always have our eye out. We're always reaching out to other companies, see if we could hit price points on certain things. We want to keep our product as high quality as we can. So we do have, or our chef has, a very selective process when it comes to who we work with. And if it doesn't meet, Clean Eat standards, it doesn't come into our building.
Yeah, so it's a high quality product in a meal prep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Going the route of all natural. We get organic when we can. Organic's always a tricky part. People do reach out requesting it, but what regular customers or consumers don't realize is the price that's attached to it. So we do things organic first. If it meets our price points, we'll take it on board. Sauces and everything we do scratch made, in-house to avoid preservatives and any added sugars or salt or sodium. We try to keep everything in a whole natural state as possible as far as we receive it, and then the kitchen goes to work into completing the dish.
being an owner of a company out there and a pretty successful company, there's got to be some good parts along with it too, right? So talk a little bit about like your favorite part of being, a partner in the company and the rewarding piece of it.
Great. So that's probably twofold. The the experience of this whole process, for me personally as well as professionally, I am not the same person I was 4 years ago. The way I think, my intake of things that happen, my reaction, um, the how I deal with certain situations. Bombs could be blowing up, and I might just be sitting there like,
I know some people in there going, well, the place is falling apart right now, and Noah's just sitting in the back with his.
yeah, yeah, and not that I'm not concerned, of course, but
Yeah.
but essentially you learn how to you learn how to take life head on, and I think one of the biggest rewarding parts of this whole thing for me, and I know I speak for a lot of people that's on the team and I work with, it's the people that we've become along the process, and that's very powerful. You go in a certain way and you're going to come out another. Um, Second to that is I'm at the point now with the company where I can enjoy time with my son. And what I mean by that is it's not while I'm home, hanging out with my son while everybody's just going to work. It's the freedom aspect of being able to maneuver my schedule so I can be with my son for 2 hours in the morning, make him breakfast, take him to daycare, get to the office. There's a lot of reward in the freedom of knowing that you're in control of your life by the decisions you're making and what you want to put out there. If I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do 120%, I'm doing 120% because this is for me. It's for the people I work with, the people around us, and for the customers that appreciate our service.
Yeah. So it gives you a little bit of freedom with your schedule every day. It's not that like 9 to 5, and you
Well,
can move some stuff around.
yeah, well,
it's not the 9 to 5. It's the 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. But within that, you have some freedom.
Yeah, well, the reality of it is I don't have a clock. As a business owner, you can't really have a clock. Oh, I'm only going to work on this for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's if something comes up and you have a deadline, you got to get it done. If for example, if the website goes down and I got to be on the phone with the service company for 4 hours until it goes up and it's 12 o'clock at night, which this has happened before, that's what I got to do. So you don't have a clock. You're more operating on a purpose than on a time schedule. And the purpose is, well, this is what we got to get done today. So if I got to stay here to 10 p.m., I'm going to stay here to 10 p.m.
Yeah. And the nice thing is you're staying at 10 p.m. for you. Talk a little bit. You mentioned the team. Talk a little bit about the team at Cleaneates and who cooks, who helps with the delivery, who does that. Like mention a couple of guys that work there, and if we forget somebody, they're not going to get mad on Monday.
Of course. So my number one, of course, is my business partner David Rivera. I've known him for six plus, well, with the maybe 7 or 8 years now. We started in the nightlife industry together. That's how we came together there, and me and him go through the battles together in that office. Whether it's discussing it every day or being on the phone late at night or early in the morning. Our head chef Tijin, she's been with us from the start. Her first day she came on as a part-time employee. She essentially wanted just a side hustle from her regular restaurant job. I remember her first shift was 10, 12 hours. We told her it would be like a 6-hour day. First shift was 10, 12 hours. She was scrubbing pots and pans. Just, we didn't hire for that. She wasn't supposed to be there that long, but she didn't walk out. She didn't leave, and she showed up the next day. And 3-4 years later, she's still with us. She's still at the head of the helm.
The first day was she a little bit like, what did I get myself into?
I mean, I was looking over there as she was, doing work that she wasn't supposed to be doing, and everybody was frustrated. So it's interesting how situations like that you can. It shows the true character of individuals. So we talk about that story all the time. Next we have Ian Sullivan. He's our director of sales. He's been on board with us for a little bit over the year. He has really come on and made a incredible impact in regards to the direction of the company, the expansion of our commercial business, and attaching his 10, 12 plus years in national food sales to what we're doing here at Clean Eats. The kitchen, it's a long list of names in regards to the kitchen, man. Our kitchen team is some of the hardest working, well, let me rephrase that. our entire operation is filled with just some of the hardest working people I've ever come across. And I consider myself a very hardworking person, and there's days where, these people are shoulder to shoulder, if not past me. So our kitchen team down to our warehouse and our delivery drivers. Some of our delivery drivers are out for 10, 12 hours and on a day in a clip, and they come back in, they clock out, hang up the keys, go home, they come back, 4 or 5 hours later, do another run. So
that's a long day in the car. That's a long day in the car.
Yeah.
I know people think, oh, well, he just came to my. No, he's been in the car for 8 hours already. Like it's not just.
Yeah.
How about the money aspect? When you guys were coming in, like investing, I know Steve was in here a little bit earlier and he's asking you about the round of investing or whatever. Talk about how you guys like were funded, and we don't need to know number stuff, but how did you do it to get started?
We're still to this day completely self-funded. We've had sit downs. We've spoken to people in regards to coming on and putting in capital. We haven't met the right. It hasn't been the right time yet. The right need. Up until this point, we have been completely self-funded.
Do you think that's a big reason why you guys are as hardworking and as successful as you are? Because the only people you have to answer to is yourselves.
Well, I think you just got a lot more on the line.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is,
if you want to pay the mortgage next month.
You want to pay the mortgage next month, you got to go to work. You can't accept, you can't accept a a failure or a loss. But the interesting thing is, you develop that grit along the way because you can't stop. You got everything in this. Your kids, your family, your employees. They're counting on you to produce and make the best decisions because you're responsible for everybody. And being self-funded, obviously, who doesn't, who wouldn't prefer to, have a large capital investment come in and the right management team, But there's a lot to say for companies like Clean Eats who started on our own, got to this point, and now you have potential, a lot of interest in regards to people coming on board and saying, wow, like
we want a little piece.
Yeah, look at what you guys did. And I feel like it's almost like a resume, or it's like you got to earn your stripes to prove to these people what you're willing to do, because when they sit down and you're pitching an idea, that's one thing, but when you sit down and you can show battle scars and you can impress somebody based on where you're at now because you did it with just your team and your business partner, without the money. And I think there's a lot to say there, and absolutely. I mean, who doesn't want funding? Who doesn't want capital? Clean Eats up until this point, we made it this far on our own, and then we're definitely proud of it. We learned a lot. Those mistakes cost a lot of money. The mistakes cost a lot of time. If everybody had a veteran or somebody that has the experience to say, hey, I did this before, let me come in your company, pay me X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to save you guys a year of headache and X amount of dollars of expenses and losses, you'll say yes. We didn't have that. The meal prep industry was so new, especially locally, that, even now, if I put up an ad for a general manager of a meal prep company, you go to Yelp, they don't even have a meal prep company category.
Yeah.
They call me every day to advertise, every week to advertise. I tell them, I'm like, we're not a takeout restaurant, we're not a delivery service, we're a meal preparation company, prepare meals, You guys don't even have a category yet. That's how far behind you are. You're Yelp.
Yeah.
But it's a good point.
Yeah. With the long days and the frustration and stuff, you have to have a pretty good support system around you. So talk about the support system that you have that allows you to do what you do today.
Gotcha. My support system starts with my family, my beautiful wife, Nikki, my 2.5-year-old son, Sebastian, my dog, Toretto, our family dog, Toretto. I got to give it to him because, those long days when you're coming home and, you walk into a house and, it's filled with love and support and motivational at once. I mean, that's the core foundation for me. My employees and my I don't even want to call them employees, my team members, my co-partners. I mean, we speak every day, from Ian, David, our chef Tejan, our office manager, Rebecca. I mean, we're all in the same fight, So if I walk out of there and it's a rough day and I'm driving home and you just turn off the radio and you put your head down, you're just like, man, I'm exhausted, But you got all this stuff on your mind. the people I work with, simple phone call away, and all that tied in because we all wake up the next day, we're all coming in to push it. Whether it's my wife and my son who are just giving me the emotional and mental support from, her sending me a text message of a picture of, my son randomly, and it's interesting because that could happen at the exact moment that like you just got a bad email or a phone call or like, somebody didn't show up to work, next to, just being able to talk to people and vent what's going on. I don't have per se a mentor. I don't have a long list of business owners who've been down this road. So I rely on the people that I work with and my family to be able to, vent and get some of that out, man.
You also have some other stuff going on with the 702 Prep Company and the Fatherhood and Company stuff too. So Clean Eats is like your main, right?
Yes, Clean Eats is 100% my main priority.
So talk a little bit too, but you do have a little bit of we talked on the phone, like some extra streams coming in along the way. So talk a little bit about the 702 and the Fatherhood and Company.
Awesome. I was approached to open a company, 702 Prep in Las Vegas. The interesting thing there was based on my knowledge and my experience through Clean Eats of 2.5, 3 years at that point. I was able to apply that directly to duplicating the operation and saving it,
some growing pains,
some major growing pains, and get it up and running rather quickly. And it's a slow moving process there. It's a different market than New Jersey. It's a smaller market than New Jersey, but essentially I was able to duplicate what we do out here, out there, and then that's slowly becoming a success as well. The Fatherhood and Co., which is fatherhoodandco.com, is a t-shirt company that I started for my son, essentially. So I started the company online. It's a complete fulfillment. I don't touch the product. It's a pretty streamless process. It costs me minimum dollars to operate, put in minimum investment in regards to advertising, and essentially sell t-shirts that I got inspired through my process of my son being born. That money actually goes directly into his savings account. So any purchases made on that website just goes directly into his account that I have on the side for him.
That's awesome. Since I've been doing the podcast thing, everybody I met, really good people, and they're doing things and they're nice. And I think you're one of those guys. I know you're one of those guys. When we were talking on the phone the other night, you told me you took a call out of the business dinner. Talk a little bit about the business dinner. Put your son to sleep.
Oh yeah. So recently, about a month ago, we had a business dinner, and essentially my wife, she knew I was going to be out late, and I'm rarely out late. I'm always coming home with my family unless obviously it's business oriented. So she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm about to put Sebastian, which is my son's name, Sebastian, to sleep. I'm going to FaceTime you." So in the middle of the dinner, I had to excuse myself, from these gentlemen that we just met. Said, my son's going to FaceTime me to say goodnight. It was about 9:45.
Yeah.
So I stepped out of the restaurant, FaceTime for about 5 or 6 minutes. Wished him goodnight, told him I love him. Came back into the dinner, and the gentlemen that we were sitting with were kind of blown away in regards. They were family men, and they even said the fact that you excused yourself to do that says a lot about where your mind's at and the person you are.
Yeah.
And these are gentlemen that we're going to be doing business with. So. And that was me just being me, and my wife saying, "Hey, you better say goodnight to your son because you're not coming home to." So,
yeah.
And it's once again the support system, the structure. I mean, my wife plays a more of a greater role than she realizes, in my life and my success with everything.
So I have two last questions for you, and I hope you hit this because we were talking about it on the phone. What makes your company successful?
What makes our company successful are the people behind it. And what I mean by that is it goes down to the grit, of the individuals, the hard working behind it, the not backing down, to the challenges. You don't realize what comes up in front of you.
Yeah.
And the willingness of our employees, whether it's working through a 12 or 13-hour shift because, something came up, we got a late order in, a late delivery, whatever you might want to call it. everybody's on board, for the end goal.
Yeah.
It's all about pushing through that moment and getting to the end goal. We have standards at Clean Eats, especially when it comes to the quality of our product as well. It's a staple of discussion. Anytime we ever bring up shifting, nope, it doesn't meet our standard, and we're not going to do it. So the driving force comes down to the team. Everybody's hungry there. We're all ambitious. We're all in this. There's no individuals that are doing this and doing it. We're
A team.
we're a close knit team.
And that's important. One of the things you said the other night on the phone that I thought was great. You said we're successful because of our failures along the way.
Oh man.
So I think people out there, when they say Clean Eats, oh, that guy got so lucky and everything worked out just for him. Every piece fell right into that puzzle. But that's not really the case. So talk about that a little bit. Clean Eats is success. I think I'm going to put that on a T-shirt, and I'll send you a couple bucks after I do that. But that was so eye-opening to me when you said that we're successful because of our failures. So talk a little bit about why you're successful because of the failures.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this back up. That falls into what I said in regards to the grit, man. We have failed so many times. We failed probably just about at everything we've ever tried to do because it's all new, and you're learning the way. There's nobody coming in there to tell us this is the right way to do it. And that's made us strong, and it's made us get to this point. The fight's there, and literally on a week to week, there's something that goes wrong. There's something that doesn't hit the way that you want it. There's an obstacle that you got to get through, and the team comes together, and we get through. And those failures are the stepping stones to the level that you're getting at. And the question really kind of comes down to, is this failure going to be the one that you're going to say, I'm done, man. I don't want to do this anymore. Or is it going to be the one that you might get that thought, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, and you're like, well, I'm going back for more. I mean, it's the the fighter spirit, man. I think the failing is more important. I can't tell you how many times I felt quote unquote success, whether it's closing a big deal or some of that nature. I can tell you all the times that our website went down. I could tell you all the times that a driver got into an accident on the road and they got 50 boxes in their truck in Manhattan, and it's 1 p.m. and it's like, how are we gonna get this food? Or I mean, I can name all the bad times. Those are the times you remember, and I think it's important to remember those, because when you get to the next level and you get to the next step of the process, you can look back and say, hey, remember the time we did that, man? Like, we were idiots, man. That was just, that was just stupid of us. But we did it, and you learned, and you kept going.
Yeah. Last question, then I'm going to let you get out of here. You're busy, obviously, doing a lot of hours per day and per week. So what do you do to kind of wind down, relax, and have a little bit of fun? What's Noah Carter do to relax?
For me, it's family. For me, it's being at home. It's spending time with my son. It's spending time with my wife. It's all family for me. They sacrifice a lot. When it comes to a day that I got to stay out late or I got to be up early, I'm taking time away from them. So for me right now, Noah Carter, it's all about family after work.
Yeah, you know what? When I had Scott Goodell in here, he said the same thing. He goes, I love being a dad. I just love being around my kids and doing that stuff. So Noah Carter, one of the good ones, Clean Eats Meal Prep. Thank you so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.